Interesting new pop-ups. How we doing? Coming back for part two to the dialogue with the hidden hand via the Wes Penre PDF, which I will share a link for in the comments as we go through, of course. All right, so this one. Yes, how's it going? Hope you're doing well today. We're continuing off at the top of page 17 in the PDF. Starting off with from where we left off last time, from where we stopped last time, leaving off from where we stopped last time, I mean. ATS, as in one of the above top secret members. If you haven't seen this yet, then, or if you haven't heard of this or don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the first video that I did. I'll share a link in the comments after I add a little bit more editing from my laptop after I finish the live. We're halfway through a dialogue with what's referred to as the hidden hand, as contained on a website called Above Top Secret. So everybody who is asking this individual questions is referred to as ATS or Above Top Secret member. And the individual that is answering the questions is a self-proclaimed Illuminati member that comes from one of the 13 houses removed from this planet. So everybody is aware of the ruling families in the Illuminati, the usually called Illuminati. Your Rothschilds and Morgans and Chases and all of them. Yeah, there's not really 13. There's quite a few of them in the various stages. But these guys are saying that they come from the ruling families that are above these ruling families. And as such, this is from some of the crew that none of us really hear about. Nobody knows the name of this family. However, they do state very clearly that they are of extraterrestrial in origin. They do not come from Earth bloodlines. They're the ones that have been scheming and organizing all of the Earth bloodlines from that side of the field. Now, the reason why I'm so fascinated in this and doing it is not because I'm a follower of Lucifer or anything silly like that, but because I absolutely love that this comes from the opposite side of the field to the law of one. It is very law of one. You might say, in short, in a single sentence, that it is law of one from the bad guy's perspective or from the service to self perspective. And as such, Lucifer comes across as somebody that you could sit down and have a cup of tea with, as opposed to the god or demon of absolute hell and everything else that some purport, whereas that's more of a satanic kind of image. Lucifer is a misinterpreted idea of a false idol from God who has fallen from heaven. He's obsessed with trying to do good and be good, and in that ends up causing more harm than good, some might say. But it's not that Lucifer is designed to be one who seeks the eternal damnation of the human race. No, it's more along the lines of, especially in context of this, he's just pursuing one direction of the universe, and that's quite a different direction than what most of us would prefer to be choosing. But ultimately, as long as we're not hurting anybody, we're free to do whatever we want. And in a lot of ways, while people with good intentions accidentally hurt people with irrelevant intentions end up hurting other people as well. But not because they want to hurt other people, but because they've got no consideration for other people. They're more focused on how they can take advantage of the circumstance versus a more common person, I find, or a more common human, I find, which is those who try to do good while being considerate of others rather than trying to do good at the cost of others. It's the difference between whether you're doing good for yourself and being selfish about it and sacrificing other people for your own benefit, service to yourself, or service to the other, which is the idea that you will be charitable, compassionate, understanding, and all of these grander ideas of higher awareness and connection. So if you're coming from that perspective, then, definitely check out the Law of One and other material associated with this philosophical outlook or this cosmological perspective, because it's absolutely phenomenally enriching from the scientific world to ancient history. It is amazing content, and one that will begin to help you to make connections and see parts of the universe that you might not have previously been able to. I'm not saying that it's a religion and that it's real or anything else like this. It's just something that has information, and that information is there for you to use or not use at your own discretion, as it's just a catalyst. And your free will is your own free will, and whatever you choose to do is your own choice in that. Getting back to the material. The top of page 17, the ATS member starts off with, a lot of what you write seems reminiscent of the Ra material, which is the name of the books from Law of One, especially the concept of harvest, service to self and service to other choices, and intelligent infinity. More information can be found here at www.llresearch.org. Have you read that? Hidden Hand replies, it is indeed extremely similar. We both originate from the source of the infinite creator, and we both remember where we come from. I would expect our message to contain the same core truths. The messages of the sixth density soul group Ra from the Law of One is the most accurate information in your mainstream circulation at this point of time. Mainstream circulation, it's definitely fringe. It's not TV channel mainstream. It is approximately 85 to 90% accurate. From what I have seen, the material was brought to my attention when it first came out, something like 25 years or so ago. If memory serves, I read a lot of it, but not all. I do not have very much free time for that kind of thing with my many duties, though others of the family gave it a close scrutiny to judge its accuracy and were very pleased with the end product. They were very pleased that their opposition were accurate in their sharing of information. I love that there's an undertone of grander perspective outside of the small scale, I'm a good guy and I'm a bad guy and we're going to get each other. We all do come from the one entity, which is the existence of it all, it seems, according to these materials. So even though we're talking about the opposite side here, they're still representing the experience of the universe to experience itself and to be aware of itself. He goes on, Ra, in fact, is the group I earlier termed off-world entities of which visited Mayan and Atlantean civilizations. We are acquainted and friends. Both our group souls are at a very similar level of development or evolution, both 6th density, nearly 7th. But like us, Ra also chose the path of service to our fellow galactic brothers and sisters, you and others, instead of further progression towards home. We would recommend that material for any who truly seek understanding, though, as I said, it is not 100% accurate, so take what resonates. Above top secret, what function, if any, do alien abductions have? Why are abductees chosen? Hidden Hand, that depends on who is doing the abducting. Most of what you hear termed as abductions are conducted by your own governments, especially the ones where the so-called Greys are involved. Other than that, sometimes the Confederation will meet with certain incarnates who have a part to play in awakening others to the coming harvest. These will always be positive experiences, and those who have them will feel uplifted and inspired by their contact. Then there is the Orion Empire group. Their purposes in visiting you are more along the negative lines. They mainly target the ones you have called light workers. They try to put them off their assignments and try to spread fear. They will not actually harm you physically. Mainly, their modus operandi is to restrict you and deflect you from your path. They often engage in psychic attacks that the light worker is unaware of, but it does often drain away much of their energy and make them lack motivation. Yeah. If you know, you know. Why do you, ATS member, why do you want a negative harvest? The hidden hand. It is complicated to put into words, and also I must be careful with what I say on this. I've already had a slap on the wrist, you could say. If we do not have a negative harvest, we are bound to you for another cycle. Once this great harvest is completed, our contract with the council and our creator is also completed. In other words, we have done our duty and would be free to return to our fullest expression, that of sixth, nearly seventh density galactic guardians, and ones who joyfully offer ourselves in service to the one infinite creator and to our brothers and sisters across the galaxy. However, there is a problem. Well, you could call it a problem. We call it a challenge. I will address this later in more detail in response to another question, but in short, we need a very high percentage of negative polarity if we are to achieve a negative harvest. In other words, we have to be service to self centered to an extreme degree in order to become negatively harvested. This is why we work so hard to be as negatively polarized as we possibly can be. If we do not make a high enough percentage, we will miss out and will end up with the majority lukewarm percentages that have to go through another cycle of third density. By attaining a negative harvest, we can still graduate to fourth density, only it will be a negative polarity planet. Not a great place to be. But as I stated previously, we as a group soul have incurred the natural karmic restitution process that we must work off for all the negativity we have caused upon this planet. We will do this for a cycle in our new fourth density world, and then we will be freed once again to be the glorious beings of light that we truly are. We need a negative harvest so that we can create our fourth density Earth and clear our karmic record. Understand that we have to be negative. That's what we were sent here to be. It is our contract, and it has always been to help you by providing the catalyst I spoke of earlier. Being negative is very hard for us, not on a physical level. The characters we play enjoy our roles as we've been programmed that way. But on a spiritual level, it is hard. We suppressed the lowly negative vibrations eons ago. We are light and we are love. And it is a very hard thing for us to do spiritually to create all this negativity. But we do it because we love you and it is for your highest good ultimately. You could say that it is our sacrifice that we have made in order to be of service to the one infinite creator and to you, our brothers and sisters in the one. Remember, we are all just acting out a grand old game here, where we agree to forget who we really are, that in the remembering that we may find each other again and know that we are one, that all of life is one. ATS, I must correct you here. The precession of the equinoxes cannot cause this. It cannot cause anything other than the way in which we here on Earth view the cosmos around us. It concerns the wobble of the Earth's axis, and as far as I know, does not relate to any other planetary bodies. Hidden Hand, from a third density perspective, you're correct. It appears that way. We do not look from a third density perspective. There is a bigger picture at work that you cannot see. ATS member, regarding our enslavement, you seem to be saying essentially that as fractions of our Logos Yahweh, we are equally responsible for his decision to keep us trapped here on our third density planet Earth. That's an interesting thought. In that sense, our total freedom must arrive through a collaborative spiritual effort. From a certain perspective, what you say is correct. From a third density view, you see yourselves as being separate from anything and everything. From a higher perspective, you see that this is not at all the case. You and your creator are one. As to your statement on your total freedom, you are not responsible for those around you. You and they are all one too, when seen from a higher density. But in this density, you are here to work upon yourself. You are here to remember who you are and why you are here. You are here to remember the infinite Creator, to know your Creator within you, and to offer your service to Him and others of your own free will choice to serve. The one comes before the other. When you remember who you are, and you know it, deep within the core of your being, you will know and recognize your invisible connection to all that is. And in so doing, joy and thanksgiving and service will be the natural outpouring result from your grateful heart. When you work upon yourself and learn to know the Creator within you, being of service to others will be natural for you, and your glorious harvest shall await. ATS member, one thing I don't get, and perhaps you can explain this to me, Hidden Hand, is why those who belong to Lucifer and Lucifer himself do not fight for the freedom of all souls. If Lucifer represents liberty, freedom of will, and knowledge, why do those who serve him not do as the biblical Lucifer did and rebel against the tyranny of the elders? This is a very good question, says Hidden Hand. Thank you. I will split it into two parts and answer the second part after this. Firstly, the Council of Elders are the absolute opposite of tyrannical. They are the wise and loving guardians of our galaxy. There is so much that one cannot understand from only a third density perspective. When you reach higher densities, you see that ultimately everything balances and there is only unity. All else than unity is illusion or thought form. The council gave us a set of choices. We chose to stay here to help you despite the cost to ourselves. That is the nature of loving service to others. The ultimate paradox in all of this is that in this storyline, we are all co-creating together. In order for us to be of the most service to you, we must be utterly self-serving. I do so love our Creator's sense of irony. As to the first part of your question, the biblical depiction of war in heaven is not entirely inaccurate. I shall explain. Our initial contract was to introduce the catalyst of free will on this planet. When Yahweh initially began disclosure with the Council of Elders, he was not initially looking for help with introducing free will, but rather for guidance on how he could best speed up his and his inhabitants' evolutionary process. As I mentioned, he was running a benign dictatorship. We had at that time just completed an assignment in Tau Ceti and had reported for our next duties. Tau Ceti, Tauceti, in case you were curious. I'm pretty sure it's a star formation or a galaxy somewhere out there. And had reported for our next duties. We, as Group Soul Lucifer, were sent on a fact-finding expedition, as it were, to visit Earth and meet with Yahweh to evaluate his planetary creation laws and to make suggestions on how best he could help his offspring. This is the term I shall use to describe the souls who compromise the group soul and thusly Yahweh to progress. We explored many options and reported our findings to the council and to Yahweh. It was our best evaluation that the only real and fast-track way to increase his evolvement meaningfully was the introduction of free will. It was not specifically the implementation of free will that Yahweh wanted help with. It was simply the introduction of a catalyst. He was not at all pleased with our report that he needed to implement free will. He was happy with his little pet paradise, and he didn't want to lose control of it. In the end, the council persuaded him that it was the best way, and he reluctantly agreed. We returned to Earth and had a cordial meeting with Yahweh, discussing how we could best implement the free will option. Yahweh was adamant that his offspring would choose to be loyal to him anyway, and that they were so contented with their way of life that they would always trust him and do as he said was best. That he said was his main reason that free will would not work well as a catalyst. That's why he agreed the experiment of the Tree of Knowledge. He believed it would prove him right. When it did not, he became angry. He threw his toys out of the pram and his offspring out of the garden and laid a big guilt trip on them about how they had broken his trust and disobeyed him. That's not really an honorable way for a Logos to behave. But hey, that's the beauty of free will, I guess. The next problem to occur was that his offspring was so grateful to us for our help that Yahweh became, in his own admission, a jealous God. Then we had the whole "you shall have no other gods than me" thing. We were not pleased with the situation at all, as a Logos should not be behaving like this with his offspring. They are one, after all, and when we attempted to leave the planet to return to the Council, Yahweh prevented our departure. We tried to leave again and were then thrown down into the astral planes and confined therein. The council ordered us to be released, but said we would have to cancel our contract to help the souls on Earth to evolve. We didn't want to leave. We found them very likable beings, really positively polarized, and we wanted to stay and help. We just wanted also to be free to come and go as we pleased. The only way we could stay was to stay confined as a group soul, which meant cycles of incarnation for us as individuated souls, which we had not done for a long while. As I've stated before, there is no wrong or right seen from the higher densities, but there are still consequences for every action. Such is the law of karmic effect. The contract had already been made between Yahweh, us, and the Council for us to provide the catalyst, so we had a right to be here or there. The karmic effect of Yahweh imprisoning us on the macrocosmic level was that his individuated souls would be imprisoned on a microcosmic level. The infinite creator gave Yahweh and all the gift of free will to create as we chose, but the karmic effect of his choice was the council quarantining the planet. A certain evolutionary level is required to be a functioning part of a positive unified galactic society. As for fighting for the freedom of all souls, remember that ultimately this is a game that we are all playing here. We are actors playing on the stage of life. This world is an illusion or thought form. No one really dies, and no one is really hurt. In between incarnations, you know this very well, very well. But the rules of the game ensure that you must forget who you are so that you believe it is all real whilst you're playing the game of life. That is an essential prerequisite when you are making choices, otherwise, the game would be too easy. This world is not reality, though we can express reality in it if we choose. ATS member? Okay. So your family and fellow elites might be entrapped in the earthly realm as we are, but why actively propagate and aid the forces of enslavement? HH, hidden hand. Because that is the part that we have been contracted to play in this game. In order to win, or more accurately, to be successful in the game, we must be as negatively polarized as possible. Service to self in the extreme. Violence, war, hatred, greed, control, enslavement, genocide, torture, moral degradation, prostitution, drugs, all of these things and more, they serve our purpose in the game. The difference between us and you in the game is that we know that we are playing. The less you know about the game and the less you remember that you're a player, the more senseless living becomes. In all these negative things, we are providing you with tools, but you do not see it. It is not what we do, but how you react to it. That is important. We give you the tools. You have the free will choice how you will use them. You have to take responsibility. There is only one of us here. Understand that, and you will understand this game. Another ATS member. Something I found extremely interesting is the concept of the grand age of procession being split into 5,125 year cycles. 3,113 BC. The beginning of the current sub-age was a time of great activity. Is the construction of stone monuments in Western Europe, the Middle East, and Egypt at this time related to the recognition of this cycle? What was the purpose of Britain's stone circles and Egypt's pyramids? These are more than mere markers of an aeon change. They must have had some enormous significance. Actually, something I'd like most to know, were the builders of these monuments members of the enslaved masses who were trying to understand the nature of existence, or were they were the builders members of your elite bloodline? Yes, there is significance in these occurrences, says Hidden Hand. According to the space-time of their happenings, the group soul complex Ra was the architect of these structures. They were created from thought. When one understands and sees that all is illusion or thought, one can use the force to manipulate the illusions. All things, seen and unseen, are interconnected life force energy. Once you know what the magician knows, it's not magic. It's a tool of creation. Science. Thank you for your questions. They were very insightful. Another ATS member. It is your kind that has ruined the world, thinking of yourselves higher than anyone. If I saw you in real life, it wouldn't be pretty. Ha 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 ha. Hidden Hand. You lack understanding, not to mention eloquence. To understand higher, try thinking outside of the box for a moment. If I am walking along the ground and you are flying above me in an airplane, does that make you better than me? No, it just makes you higher. Says the same ATS member, I will see you in hell. Hidden Hand. Be careful what you wish for. All thoughts and words are creative. Skias, I'm guessing that's what their name was. Thank you for your questions. I believe I have already dealt with many of them in my previous answers this session, though if you feel I've missed anything, please say. ATS, if Yahweh is a positive polarity entity, how is he wrathful and jealous? Hidden Hand, does Yahweh have free will? Would you like to think of yourself as reasonably positive? Can you still be wrathful and jealous at times? Is Yahweh a macrocosm of you? ATS, have there been over time other entities pretending to be Yahweh? Hidden Hand, on occasion, yes. That's an interesting question. Has there been entities in our timeline of history that have pretended to be Yahweh? Yes. Fascinating. ATS member, I would like to know, how do we choose a service to others positive path over a service to self negative? Is this statement correct? In order to choose the positive path, at least 51% of our thoughts and actions must be dedicated to the service of others. For the negative path, at least 95% must be self-serving. Between the two lies the sinkhole of indifference. The Hidden Hand, your statement is correct. Yes. So you see how hard we must strive for negativity. It takes a lot of effort to reach 95% negativity. Also, you may be surprised how many people on the planet are nowhere near reaching 51% positive. 51% positive. A lot of people still have yet to even achieve that. It's not because they don't want to, but it's because of the way in which our brains are constructed, the way in which our language is formed. Everything in our world fundamentally is designed with an external identification. That's what's commonly referred to as a fear-based identity ego. That's fear-based, meaning service to self, as opposed to service to others. Where was I? ATS member, how do you choose a service to others path? Be good to yourself, says Hidden Hand. Cultivate a genuine love for life and for being. Be genuinely thankful to the infinite creator every day for bringing you into being and for his bountiful provision. You have survived this far, have you not? You may not have everything you want, but you have everything you need in order to complete that which you incarnated here to do. Give thanks for that. Show acknowledge and gratitude to the infinite creator for all that it has done and is doing for you. It has given you the gift of life experience and offered you the free will to decide what you will create with it. Guard your thoughts carefully, as they are more powerful than you may imagine. When you are coming from a place of love for and service to your Creator, a life of service to others will naturally become an outflowing from that. Always look for ways that you can be of assistance to your fellow beings, being of encouragement to others. Build people up and do not put people down. Be a beacon of light in a dark world. Does that old lady need a hand with her shopping bags? How do you treat a homeless man who asks you for some spare change from the shelter? Ever heard about angels in disguise? Look and see the divine spark in the heart of all beings. Treat them as you would like to be treated yourself, and as you would as you would your creator if he was speaking directly with you. For even, quote, for even as you are doing it to the least of the, sorry, for even as you are doing it to the least of these, you are doing it unto me. The law of radiation and attraction, your thoughts, words, and actions return to you. Ultimately, cultivate a spirit of humble gratitude. You won't go far wrong with that. Desire to serve flows naturally from a grateful heart. ATS member, if we live with a service to others philosophy in order to achieve oneness with the infinite source, isn't that really service to self? How is the distinction of negative and positive polarity made? Hidden hand, you do not serve others to achieve oneness with the infinite source. You serve others because you love them as yourself. Others are an extension of yourself. That's why the law of attraction works the way it does. Truly, whatever you're doing to me, you are doing to yourself. We are all one. In the infinite creation, separation is an illusion because you only see what is in the third density. You do not see the whole picture. We achieve oneness with the infinite source of all as a result of our upward spiral of progression. We are all on the path back to where we came from. We are all on our way back home. ATS member, it is my understanding that all souls must eventually choose a positive path to unite with the infinite creator. If this is true, what is the justification of choosing the negative path now for your people and us? An astute question. Yes, all souls eventually learn that positive is the pathway which leads home. But whilst incarnating in third density, negativity is still an important tool in your learning process. It teaches you other than, as I said earlier, it is up to you how you use the tools we have given you. Do you respond to negativity with more negativity? Has fighting fire with fire ever worked for you? Or do you choose to see the negativity as the tool that it is and recognize what it is offering you in this opportunity? I will honor your free will to think and discover for yourself what that opportunity is. Or, says an ATS member, or if the one infinite creator is love, does that mean it doesn't matter if we choose love of others or love of ourselves? Will either path lead back to the source? In a sense, you're correct to a certain point, but there is a big difference between loving yourself and being selfish. A big difference. When you truly understand what it is to know and love yourself, you cannot help but love and serve others. There are no others. When you understand this at the core level of your being, you will be on the path home to the infinite creator and ultimately submergence back into the infinite oneness. ATS says, I agree with many others that your answers are very much in line with several sources I have read in the past, including the channelings of Ra, the Cassiopeians, and several others. Can you explain the interpretation of such channelings and if they are another source of disclosure from your people? Hidden Hand. I have spoken on Ra in my previous answers today. I have not heard of the Cassiopeians. There are no other communications from my family at this time than this one, though there is a possibility of another soon, depending upon certain events. My general view of channelings is that the majority of them are very poor quality. That is not necessarily a slight against those bringing them through, but more a matter of their lack of receptivity and subsequent distortions. It is very rare to find a good, stable, clear, and impartial channel. The key element in channeling is the ability to temporarily withdraw the filters of our own personal beliefs and be a clear channel to bring through what is actually given, not your slant on what you think it might mean. When I am saying you, I mean this in general term, of course, here, not you personally. Always remember that it's meant to be about the message, not the messenger. The Ra channelings are very accurate indeed. They are the only ones I know that I would be happy to classify as a clear message, though, as I say, even then it's not 100%, more like 85 to 90. Another difficult message with channeling is that you can start off receiving a positive entity, and if you're not very perceptive in your discernment and careful in your protection when identifying an incoming channel, you can get a negative one that pretends to be positive, but gradually slips in more and more misinformation having gained your trust. The ones that give you precise dates and times are nearly always ones to avoid. Positive entities will not give a date and time. Negative ones will do, so they can set you up for a fall. Once you're tricked into predicting dates and times and they don't happen, they've succeeded in putting out the light of your message, as no one will see any credibility in you. ATS member, well, now we know the point of this thread. Someone just discovered New Age theology and wanted to take the time to type out his discovery. OP, original poster, maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure of the terminology of OP in these forums. Still waiting for you to provide a prediction with the timeline. So far, all you've offered in general is general doom, which is what everyone on ATS predicts every year. We need something specific in the next week. Of course, I know you won't provide anything. This is a hoax. Hidden Hand, this will be the only time that I reply to you. At the outset of our discourse here, I made it expressly clear the way I am choosing to operate. If you do not like any of my choices, you have the free will to not read this disclosure. I would kindly suggest that you use it. As your energy is feeling very frustrated and angry, that's not really an advisable direction to want to be heading under the circumstances. As I took the time to explain to you before, I have nothing to prove to you. This is not why I came. Believe or do not believe, I am divinely indifferent. My, if my presence here ends up benefiting just one soul during this process, it will have been worth the effort. I have not asked you to believe. The only thing I have respectfully asked was that you suspend judgment or hold a provisional faith until this discourse is complete, so that the flow of questions and information remains uninterrupted. You have shown me nothing but discourtesy and bad manners from the outset, and then wonder why I do not respond. If you do not like the topic, simply choose not to read or reply, and let those that do wish to participate with insightful questions do so uninterrupted. Your points. Number one, New Age theology. This is amusing. You clearly have not the faintest comprehension of just how ancient and timeless these mysteries are. I find it ironic. Low level Mason, I'm guessing that's their name because it's tagged and written as if it would be the handle of the individual. Low level Mason, that if you ever make it to the 32nd degree, you're going to find yourself hearing these truths all over again. And I hope you will find it easier to integrate these truths then. And I ask our infinite creator to guide your path. Number two, you will not be receiving any times and dates from me. I am not here to prove anything, and I have no need to do so. Your disbelief is of no consequence to me, only to you. I am here to diligently discharge the duty given to me of delivering a message, and I will complete that duty regardless of your feelings about it. 3. As to your point regarding doom and gloom, that just serves to reveal your mindset. Where you see doom and gloom, I see opportunity. Life conforms to your ideas about the way it is for you. If you see doom and gloom, then that is what you are projecting. The world is your mirror. It reflects back to you what you are putting out. If you do not like the reflection life is showing you, then change what it is. Then change that which is causing it. ATS. You see, if this really existed, there would be countless thousands of people involved, and any one person could leak. Hidden hand? Thousands? Try millions, and you have no possible comprehension of the rigorous training and the harshness of the conditioning we undergo from an early age. No one dares go against the family. We know what would happen if we did. But that is not the prime motivator. The motivator is unbridled loyalty to the family and our Creator. We understand the importance of what we are doing here, even though most of humanity does not. ATS, oopsie. OP, you just shot yourself in the foot. For someone who only deals with manipulating the spiritual side of life, you sure do know a lot about things that have nothing to do with it. You just exposed yourself. Hidden hand. Do you not sit down with your family and keep another abreast of your plans? As your remarks about my spiritual role, as to your remarks about my spiritual role, the ignorance you demonstrated is most humorous to us. If you think I only deal in the spiritual, you have either not read or misread my posts. You also make the assumption that my role is about manipulating the spiritual side of life. Again, you lack understanding and then make false judgments about that which you have no comprehension of. You would do well to stop trying to be clever and instead channel all this misplaced aggressive energy of yours into something more productive and nourishing for your soul. But don't let me stop you. You're contributing nicely to the overall negative polarity of the coming harvest. We are grateful to you. I will be spending the last few days of my time here, our discourse ends on Friday, focusing on responding to insightful questions with depth, which make the most of the opportunity for sharing information and making connections on a soul level of being. So please do not expect any further responses to your verbal jousting. I neither have sufficient time or inclination for engaging in insignificant banter. To those whose questions I have not had time to reply to, I will do so tomorrow. In the meantime, while I catch up, I respectfully ask if you will please hold off on further questions until I am up to date with the current ones. Thank you to those who have contributed to this discourse so far with meaningful questions. For those with an open mind, it is my hope that you get something out of this information. That is almost the end of page 24 and the end of the second session. And we'll pick it up again at the beginning of the third session in the next video that I do, whenever that may happen to be. So yeah, like I said, I'll post a link in the comments, and it's all groovy and fun. There is so many amazing bits and pieces in here that are just absolute pure gems about it all. And the thing that blows me away is, the emphasis of exaggeration and pointing out the polarity of it all. I'll use the words even if they're inaccurate. For a bad guy, this Lucifer definitely lays out the good path pretty damn simply put. One of the things I wanted to touch on before the end of the video was the idea of being of service to yourself, for yourself, or being of service to yourself for others. And that's basically what the circumstance is. If you're being of service to others, for others, then you misinterpret this reality that we live in, because there's no such thing as other, they're actually you. So when you're being of service to others because they're others, what you're doing is you're trying to be good. And that has a subconscious archetypal, like a conundrum that might come up, likely outside of the awareness of the individual. As like I mentioned, it's mostly subconscious. what happens is that we find ourselves in a situation where we're doing the best that we can to try to do good, and we end up doing bad, or bad things happen, and we're just left there going, but I'm just trying to do what's right? Actually, that's not the way to go about it. And I spent many years trying to figure this out, which was after I learned everything from school and my peers and my parents and everything, I went out into the world and I tried to do what was good. I tried to do what was expected to be good. But the only thing that I was missing was the understanding that I was trying to do good to things that I perceived as bad. So I went out into the world and I looked around and I went, look at all this external stuff going on. Where can I help and where can I fix? Well, this external thing is broken. This external thing is wrong. This external thing is upside down and misguided, and I can help with that. That's highly judgmental of me and super egotistical to suggest that I have the answers that somebody else is looking for. How do I know? I might have an idea or a suggestion, but I could never claim that I have the answers that somebody else knows until they turn around and confirm as such. I can say all that I want to try to convey that, but accurately, we've got to be more careful with how we identify and articulate ourselves around these certain circumstances. The key about doing good and the key about being a fantastic individual in this world is not trying to do good. It's actually about being selfish, radically self-centered, in a compassionate way to all of those around you. So much so that when you have the ability to be able to look after and cultivate yourself without costing everyone else around you, then sooner or later, you as a seed will get to a point in your growth where you'll start to burst that seed open and your life will start to spread outside of you. At that point, being nice and being compassionate, being understanding and friendly and loving and seeing everything as one becomes, without any effort, it becomes something that is you. It's not something that you try to do. It's not something that you try to be. It is at that point something that you are doing. Not because you're trying to do it. You're just trying to do you. You're just trying to look after you while being all that you can for others. And somewhere along this path, without focusing on the others, but focusing on you, without damaging the others, and without being selfish, completely selfish for yourself, you will soon get to a point where you just have to share what you have. You just have to bring out what you are for all of those around you. And they will respond appropriately so. Have you ever tried to help somebody who didn't want to be helped? And then walked away going, that's because you're coming at it from the wrong angle. They can smell your energy a mile off. Whether they're aware of it or not, most people aren't. Remember, all of this sort of stuff goes on subconsciously and then actually gets moved to the front of our brain or the ego, and is then akin to having the Cartesian model of thinking is the idea that we have ourselves inside of our head in like a movie theater, and we're watching the world go on outside of our heads. In this model of thinking, it's akin to having somebody pass a sticky note to the individual sitting in the middle of your brain who is sitting behind your eyes and looking at your eyes. And this post-it note says, you think this, and then you in your seat inside your mind go, ha, I had a thought and I thought this, and this is what I thought. Little realizing that this was handed to you. It wasn't something you went, okay, I've got a pen, I'm going to write a thought down. This thought was actually given to you. And that's what meditation is all about, is figuring out what's behind that scene, what's behind that curtain, the veil of ignorance and indifference that we find hiding at the backside of our consciousness, that shards or severs, seemingly, in our perspective, the line between the living and the dead, the spiritual world and the physical world, as they call it. So that's enough of my ranting for the day. I'm going to head off and go jump into the garden. Hope you have a wonderful day out there. And if you see any ladies with shopping bags who need some assistance, now you know what to do. Love you all. See you next time. How do I?